Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Leap Revisited, our weekly show where we go over some classic Quantum Leap episodes from back in the day. And as usual, I have a great panel of people here with me that you already know. I'll just go one by one and introduce them. First of all, we have Nicholas, the Back Yard Tardis. And for those who are not familiar, Nicholas is a minister in his local church. He has his own locksmithing business. He works with the sheriff and the fire department in his town as well, and he has a ranch where he raises goats. He's also an expert on science fiction, and he's here with us today. How's it going, Nick?
Going good. I've been a little under the weather, but happy to be here. This is always a highlight of the week.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I also had a bit of a cold this week, but we're getting through it. And there's no better way to get over a cold than to talk about classic Quantum Leap episodes. That's just what the doctor ordered.
That's science.
Right, exactly. Next, we have with us the Script Doctor. The Script Doctor, he is experienced screenwriter. He has his own Patreon where he teaches screenwriting. He also has his own YouTube channel where he also discusses pop culture, but also does stuff that relates to screenwriting, where he recently launched his show Scripts on Saturdays. Actually, recently I was on the show, and it was really, really fun. Highly recommend it. And it's every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. 7 p.m. I know some people, they may have thought it was 7:30 p.m., but it's 7 p.m. Am I right, Script?
Correct. It is 7 p.m.
7 p.m. So that's a really, really good show, and I highly recommend it. Whether I'm a guest or not a guest, I mean, if I'm a guest, I'm enjoying being there. If I'm not a guest, I just enjoy listening to it. On that show, what he does is he goes over screenplays that have been considered by big Hollywood studios, but weren't picked up for whatever reasons, and he kind of analyzes them with a guest, and it's really something very unique and interesting. I highly recommend it. So that's on Script Doctor's channel. How's it going, Script?
It's going great. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. Next, we have Ro from the Scarif Podcast, also known as Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt Podcast, also known as Ro, the co-founder of the Red 5 Network, network of other podcasters that listen to Ro's guidance as they podcast.
Sure, why not?
And in addition to that, he has decades of experience in the broadcast news industry. A lot of times here on the show, he can bring a lot of input when it comes to more technical stuff that we're seeing when it comes to the camera setup and technical work. So always interesting to hear his input. And if you like podcasts, highly recommend his podcast. You can listen to it anywhere, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Amazon or what have you. How's it going, Ro?
It's going great. Always great to be with these wonderful gentlemen here and talk some Quantum Leap. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah. This is a good episode to talk about. I mean, until now, I think all of them have been good, but sometimes you feel like there's one that maybe is even a little better than usual, and I think this one's a good one. Finally, here we have the real Sean Krummel, not to be confused with the fake Sean Krummel. And Sean is an artist. He recently launched his own sticker collection on Etsy. I have put the link in the description below, but in case in some platforms maybe the link does appear, doesn't appear, I don't know sometimes how these things work. So we'll just tell you that it's the real Sean Krummel art on Etsy. Is that correct?
Real Sean Krummel art.etsy.com.
That's what I meant to say, and you were just refining it, and now it's perfect.
At 7 p.m. Correct.
Exactly. So now that we, in addition, the real Sean Krummel also has a YouTube channel called The Real Sean Krummel. And he talks about pop culture. He does stuff like that over there. He also has his own videos that he draws, and he does retro comic book reviews. So just a lot of interesting things going on there. Highly recommend it. Finally, before I forget, when I introduced Nicholas, the Back Yard Tardis, I forgot to mention that he has two YouTube channels. One is the Back Yard Tardis, which he does more pop culture stuff there, but he also has his second channel, The Adventures in Locksmithing, in which he talks about his job, and he kind of gives you updates from his day on the job. He goes into a lot of kind of sometimes these kind of evictions or places that maybe he went with the police to search, and I don't know what. A lot of really cool stuff. Where it's just sometimes weirdos that hire him for his services. Sorry, I don't know if that was a good way to describe it, but you all know what I mean. And
Yeah, well, oh no, it's
Definitely
everything. Like
weirdos.
this week I've had, a story about moving a ridiculously heavy old safe, and I also had a story about a time when a customer, while I was rekeying his house, just walked up next to me, dropped drawers, and peed on his own wall.
Wow.
So
He's marking his
happens.
territory.
Yeah.
So Portland, huh? Okay.
No, California.
That makes sense.
Almost as bad. Almost as bad.
and
Well,
of course,
I don't know why he didn't just go do it outside. Everybody else is.
people are strange, as that song goes. So just quickly before we just jump into it, we have regulars here like Tex Rogers, Ron Donofero, my friend Dred Roberts stopped by to say hello. I do some live streaming with him, usually once a week, and something I call the Night Owl. Joshua Calkins, nice to see you too. Lisa Katrine.
We still can't get her name.
Katrina.
She says it every week.
Lisa Katrine.
No, Lisa K. Lisa K.
Lisa K. So yeah, so a lot of
Tripping
good
Orc.
people, and Tripping Orc is here. Always happy to see Tripping Orc. So yeah, I mean, I guess let's jump into this episode. First of all, because at the time
Right.
Tex Rogers has asked me if I can say who directs the episode, that it's funny because this one it's that Michael Zinberg guy, and it's the same guy that once I said it's the only other time I remembered to say a director. It was the same director. But you know what? Michael Z has been doing a good job. The Z Man
Yeah.
is doing a solid job here. Lisa Katrine saying, just call me Lisa.
Katrine.
Oh, and wait, we also have Malachi D. Wildman.
Can try again.
We'll keep trying. We'll get it right one day.
Well, you know, I improve from day to day, and I do the best that I can. Comics and cosmetics, what's up? Only saw 4 likes, and there's 13 here. Let's smash some likes. Yeah, I can't argue with that. Yeah.
Wow,
Absolutely.
yeah. What's up, Danny?
That's exactly the kind of spirit we need around here.
She's another one of my Red 5 minions.
Oh, okay. See, that's some of the advantages we get when we have the co-founder of the Red 5 network as part of our panel.
You get one extra person.
Hey, you know, if everybody brings a person, it's another person. In any case, let's jump into this episode because it's really a good one. I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about it. So I'm going to share the screen, and hopefully it'll actually share it. Yeah, it's looking good. So there's the logo. Okay, so again, we're still at the part of the series where there isn't an official intro that we're going to see later on, but we're starting to get there. I mean, I believe that somewhere in season 2 they start playing around with these intros. It's just we're still at that kind of him recapping the previous episode and then leaping into the new leap. So he's here, he's in court, and he's expected to say, you know, if this client of his here is guilty or not guilty, and he basically decides that she's not guilty. Now, this is a problem because before Sam leaped into this guy, they reached some kind of agreement with the prosecutor, and Sam is now just basically ruining it because he just doesn't even know really what's going on. Just based on his instinct, he figured if he's here, she must be innocent.
He looked into her eyes and could see that she was innocent.
Right.
And the deal is 20 years for manslaughter 2.
Second degree
Right.
murder. Yeah.
Right, which I guess in the at that time in the South, what year is this supposed to be?
57.
57.
57. So in
Yeah.
1957 in the South, under the circumstances, that kind of punishment in this town with these people was basically not as bad as it seems, although it's bad, but not as bad as it seems considering the alternative, I suppose.
But also highly suspect.
Mhm.
Right, highly suspect that they're even willing to reach an agreement or whatever it is. Like everything about this seems kind of weird. So we start here, and then let's see if it says here who the. I'm trying to see if where do they write the director? Is it
Usually the last credit.
So first of all, it's written by Deborah Pratt. I always have a lot of good things to say about her. I think that Donald Belisario, obviously he's the visionary behind the idea of this show, but I don't underestimate the writing work that Deborah Pratt has done here. It would be easy to think that maybe because she was his wife that he was kind of in charge and she was his wife, but the truth is, a lot of these episodes.
Real
Yes.
fast, can we see Sean now? I mean, Danny
I'm just
is.
trying to see the screen.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sean's blocked by the there we
you
go.
Thanks.
Excellent.
oh, good. That's
I
a
was
good.
going to say down in front, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No, this is good. This is good stuff. I appreciate, and it's good. Now you can see Sean. in any case, so I'm saying that Deborah Pratt actually legitimately did some good work on this show, and I think that in this case, it wasn't so much that she's just married to the guy that created it, but I think that maybe they were a good duo, doing some good work together. I don't know, script. Maybe you usually know these kind of internal things.
Well, she was a co-producer and on the staff for the entirety of the show. She wrote a lot of episodes dealing with racial discrimination. That was kind of like what she did, and I believe in an interview she claimed that she grew up in the southern region, so she did experience a lot of bigotry for just the color of her skin. And what she chose to do with some of the Quantum Leap episodes she got was expose what that was like. Now, granted, it's not everywhere, and when we do get to other episodes that take place in the South at various times, we do see far more noble behavior and a lot less of the bigotry. It's usually targeted at certain points here, and even with some degree in this part here, like the judge himself, he's definitely not racist because he is willing to entertain certain aspects of the law that a normal person, more akin to, say, the character that plays Sam's wife in this particular episode, would not
Right.
tolerate, or especially the sheriff themselves. So it's not a black and white situation, which I appreciated, especially ahead of its time in this particular piece. But yeah, she does write those types of episodes. That's to her forte, and it's kind of a important subject to her. So,
But what I will say is that as opposed to more modern day writers, I always feel like there's a lot of nuances in her writing. And if she wants to show a time that was difficult, even with discrimination, it usually doesn't come off as mean spirited as you think it could. It gives you a window of what that time and that place could have been like, but it also shows you characters that are not just one dimensional. And it tries to at least give you some kind of context or historical context or anything, just to sort of get the feeling of exactly what was going on there. It doesn't mean that it makes any excuses for it, but I'm saying I think that she has a more nuanced way of telling these stories, which I kind of like.
she's less on the nose than current day writers. She
Right,
understands the core essence of what is being discussed and doesn't preach about it. And she uses Sam as a way to kind of circumnavigate those areas without being so I guess patronizing and dishing up empty platitudes.
Yeah. I personally, a lot of these episodes that are more serious or whatever she writes, I think she does it in a tasteful way. So that's good to know. Then directed, I guess it wasn't
Andy
Zinberg. Andy Cadiff. Did we have this guy already?
It doesn't seem familiar.
No.
Sorry, I don't know why I thought it was Michael Zinberg. So again, it was Andy Cadiff. So
No, this is his first episode of that. He does 2 more next season.
So, Tex, if you're listening, the director is Andy Cadiff.
Yeah, he told you like 3 times earlier already.
Right. Yeah.
Because I asked it when I first got in, and he was on it.
So once this whole thing is over, you have this Captain Cotter or whatever his name is. He sort of seems like the boss of the town. He's the big man in this town, and
He's okay. So he is the wealthiest man in this town, and that wealth gives him a bunch of influence. And I'm familiar with this type of guy because I've experienced 3 of them in 3 different towns that I've lived in, and they do exist even to this day. It's kind of, especially in like smaller town communities, it's a lot easier for them to control, especially if they're the factory owner or the main employer of things or the main importer. I know one that was also not just a factory owner, but he's also served on the city council, and he would make every sort of criminal issue that pop up involving his kids, it would always vanish up into their adulthood.
Amazing.
It's just miraculous,
right.
He's
So-
like the boss hog of the town.
Totally, like a less comical boss hog.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but that's generally the feeling. And he walks up to Sam. I did like this here, that this was a nice touch, that he wants to drive Sam home, and Sam kind of picks up that this guy is like bad news. But the funny thing is, there's a part that Sam says, "Oh, the truth is, I don't even know where I live." So he takes the ride with him because, first of all, he doesn't even know where he lives, so it's already like a bonus. But also to kind of learn who he is. So now here they're driving, and this is interesting here. I like how this show, we always talk about this, but that they don't just give all the info immediately. Things gradually unfold. At the beginning, you don't know who this guy is or what the deal is or why he's driving him or what his motive is. And, first of all, there's a part that he uses a term. He uses, I think, the N word.
Yep, the egregious one.
Right. The not good one.
Yeah.
In any case, he
Not
uses
Nancy,
that.
which is a fine one, but not a good one.
Right. The one that's the worst to use, I suppose. So the one that was like no, not like Modelo, because it's worse than Modelo. Never mind.
Last week I thought was going to be a really good tap dancing episode, but you're doing a fine job this week.
Right.
You're just like, yeah. Hey.
So basically, Sam tells him, "Don't use that word in my presence. How dare you?" This and that and that, and he's like, "Oh," and then he starts telling him, "Well, she killed my son," and then it kind of adds another angle here because it's not that it gives them any kind of justification to speak that way, but you're kind of learning more that this is a serious matter here, and this guy is very powerful. He believes she killed his son, and he doesn't like what Sam is doing. It already kind of adds stakes right out the gate very quickly, which I like. Meaning he just exited that courtroom, and already they've taken it a step further. You're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? It's good, I think, from a storytelling perspective. You guys can weigh in.
Well, I just like the way when that reveal happens because, obviously he's upset with how it's going. He doesn't think this is the way. But then when you think of the idea of just the conflict of interest here, the victim's father is driving the defense attorney home. And that's total strong arm move. And for like the majority of the ride, Sam's just like completely oblivious of that's what's happening until he says that. And it's like, whoa, this is a lot more serious.
Right. I like the way this builds up. Sean, were you trying to say something as I cut you off?
No, I just wanted to mention at the beginning, I like it's in the recap where he says, hold on, I make notes. I guess that's what life is about, is making the right choice at the right time. And that is what the whole episode is built on. So I just wanted to establish that from earlier.
I see. No, good. It's a legitimate point. Also, hi to Kai1 Calendar, who joined us. I guess let's go back to looking at it. They're at the car. Sam understands the stakes are bigger here, and then this part is also good. They drive home. He drops him off, and this is funny. Initially, his wife comes out, and she's so proud of him because if the most powerful guy in town is driving him around, she thinks this is going to be great. I think she even mentions that they'll accept her in the country club, or I don't know what. She has all these kind of material things that interest her, but.
And well, here's the other part too. We've already seen the body that Sam is in, and he's kind of schlubby. And I'm like, how does that schlubby guy get a number like her? Yes, she's superficial and shallow, but you'd think if she's superficial and shallow, she would get a man that is physically appealing to her superficial and shallow attitude, not a chubby, cowardly lawyer.
I think she is slowly making him that way because in this scene, she's so happy. She's like, I'm going to bake you a pecan pie.
I thought that was code. I thought that was code too, by the way.
Well, then the code comes right after when she's like, you can play Red Butler.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Her voice drove me insane, though. I was like, oh my God.
Maybe rather than kind of a guy that looks great, she's more interested in the social status situation. I guess a lawyer in this town and one that's making the right connections is the kind of guy that she wants to back. She wants to be part of these country clubs. So, yeah, maybe if she wanted a guy that looked more like a model, this guy isn't the right guy. But I feel like this is exactly this type of social climber that thinks that this guy is her ticket to bigger and better things.
At least she bakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
It is 1957, though. I think that was kind of
Required.
Required. I don't think you could be a woman in 1957 and not, bake something. I'm not trying to be mean.
Especially
Don't
in
be
this town.
offended. Don't be offended. I didn't make the rules. I'm just saying that I believe that in 1957 that's how things were. I'm not.
Sean.
I'm not. I'm not judging if it's good or bad. I'm just saying that I believe that in 1957 that's how it was.
Yeah.
And now that I've tap danced my way out of that, I'll move on.
And with as concerned with social status as she is, that's a big thing. You've got to bring the top item to the potluck that everybody talks about. You've got to be what the town raves about.
Right.
And I want to agree with Lisa Kutrayan.
Just
And,
say
Lisa K.
Lisa K. Okay, fine, Lisa. I want to get the name right. I want to know how to say that name. But fine, I'll go with Lisa. I
Leave a
sound like an
voicemail
idiot.
on Rosa channel.
All right. Well, she says she's so unlikable, and I agree. She's a very, very unlikable wife. There's not even like one redeeming moment about this lady.
Unless you like pecan pie.
Or Red Butler.
Or Red Butler.
Or Red Butler, yeah. So yeah, she's all excited. She's so happy. That's it. He delivered the goods, and Al just appears kind of.
I like the way. Yeah. This
we're
was
all
a
like,
really,
yeah.
This was a really good transition. You had the tracking shot, and he appears behind. Obviously he was behind the tree there when the camera kind of goes
don't
by.
spoil it for me.
It was and obviously when you hear the sound effect, you're like, ooh, cool.
Even when they first show Sam in this episode, I thought it was really cleverly done because they're showing him in the mirror, and then it like
there's a jump cut there.
That was very nice. It was very nicely done.
Well, go ahead and play it because he Script says there's a jump cut.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks weird. There's a weird.
It looked weird, but I think that might be the encoding.
It could be the encoding.
It looked like they cut literally like 3 frames earlier again on like another pass.
Yeah.
Because again, Dean Stockwell is already in mid momentum, and that's hard for an actor to pick up on with such a small, narrow block. For them.
But the encoding isn't great either. Let's see again.
Yeah, it looks a little jumpy at the cut.
Whatever it is, I think
plot hole.
Whatever it is, I think it looks cool.
Yeah. And again, I didn't notice that when I was watching it on a television, regular television, rather than a screen like this. So
basically, Al is like, oh well, all you have to do is just make sure she pleads guilty, and everything will be great.
Right,
that's
20
Sam's
years, avoid the electric chair, whatever.
But I mean, I wonder about this guideline that he's given him, because it's kind of a crappy guideline. I mean, if not that, what was he supposed to do? What
He's
was
supposed
his?
to be Red Butler.
Oh, he really was supposed to be Red
Yeah,
Butler.
I was
Biggie
like,
said,
you
yeah.
just got to be Red Butler, and he's like, what about this other thing? He's like, oh no, it's fine. She gets 20 years. She takes the deal or whatever. And he's like,
I feel like Al was pretty useless here.
Which is why, like, at the beginning of the episode, he's like, you got to make the right decision at the right time. And it's like, oh, God, that's like the whole premise of this entire episode.
Well,
Right.
when you think of when he first jumped into that, and it's like, how do you plead? That
Yeah.
would be your reaction. Is like, if I'm here to get this woman off. I'm here to plead not guilty.
Would make sense.
Like, and then when Al tells it, no, you're supposed to plead guilty. He's like, what?
I was actually questioning if Sam's good nature was getting the better of him when he was staring into her eyes. I was like, did she really do it? And you're just like that Clark Kent farm boy that wants to believe the best in everyone, or what? Like, are you really doing the right thing here, there, Sam?
Well, I think to some extent it's part of his thought that, you know, he's on a mission. He's being sent by a higher power. So he's like, oh, she must be innocent. That's why I'm here.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, they
That
even
makes
address it like throughout the episode, looking into her eyes, and
Yeah.
even Al's like doubting him initially. He's like, "You looked into her eyes." But
Yeah. What's that all about? All right.
yeah,
So
The one detail that bothered me throughout this episode was how much everybody sweat.
Hot in Louisiana, man.
Yeah.
and they didn't have AC. You know, they're going all natural.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is weird because in Texas, the brothels had air conditioning at that point, because that's an invention that the brothels were kind of created, so to speak. Just didn't make its way to the South.
It's a good invention.
Oh yeah.
So she's talking to him, and she's not being very helpful.
oh, she's just as infuriating in this episode with how
Right.
beautiful she.
Early on, yeah. And I do want to point out that this entire episode has some really, really great performances by the actors.
I
From
agree
her
with you.
To the later on, we meet Boss Hogg's wife. What's her name? And another character named Myrtle. I mean, the acting is just superb in this one.
I agree with you.
I feel
Sorry,
a little redundant every week where I'm like, all these people were in so much. Like, she's in tons of stuff later on, and
Yeah.
the judge is one of those.
Oh yeah, the judge is
those
everywhere
actors.
back in the 80s and 90s.
William Shallot.
He's been
Yeah.
around since like the 50s doing stuff, and I always think of him as being a modern actor because I see him in so much. But I mostly know him from B movies like Monolith Monsters or Incredible Shrinking Man. But yeah, like even the sheriff is in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, this
Well,
was
that
a
just
good.
goes to-
Sorry, go on, Nick.
I was just going to say that just goes to show that like this was the show to be on. Everybody's
Yeah.
trying to get a guest spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? At this point, I think that may not be inaccurate. I think that this is a really good show. Every week, they explore a lot of very interesting topics. It doesn't feel it's a time travel show, but it doesn't feel like you're doing something ridiculous or dumb. And I bet that people did want to be a part of it.
hmm
So yeah, I think this actress, I think her name is Tyra Farrell. She does well. The lady, the wife of the Boss Hog guy, she is
Sadie.
actually
That's Kathleen Noon or Kathleen
Yes.
Nolan, whatever you want to call her.
whatever. Yeah, I never know how to pronounce it, but I think she was in Saturday Night Fever.
All My
can't
Children, Not Standings. Let me Saturday. Oh, I guess I should hit all. Sorry.
Let's see here. I'm seeing Sunset Beach.
Dharma and
No.
Greg.
No Saturday Night Fever. I don't know why I thought she was in that.
I don't know.
No, she's
No,
in an episode of Frasier.
no, Knots Landing. I remember. I know. I actually know who she was on Knots Landing. I don't know why I thought she was the same. There's an actress that really resembles her that she was in Saturday Night Fever, but
Well, even the blonde wife in this, I I kept thinking it was I want to say like Andy McDowell or something. She reminded me of another actress. And
That says Stacey Ray. She's I think she's mostly been an acting coach for most of her career, because she does pop up here and there, but she doesn't get a lot of roles, or at least doesn't get a lot of stuff that we would often see her in on television.
Bryce, you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm totally here.
Yeah, all right.
I'm still trying to figure where I saw where else I saw that actress from, but doesn't matter. I am here, and we're going to move forward. She's not very cooperative, this lady. And yes, as Rose said, they are sweating and she's smoking. But and then at this point, she's like, "Oh, let me out of here. I don't want to be here." And then the police officer takes her away. And Sam knows that he's in a bad situation here because nobody's cooperating with him. It's a tough town. It's a tough time. It's like a small town. It's almost like Mission Impossible what he's taken upon himself here. So he goes to the sheriff's
It's also
office.
a corrupt town. I mean,
Yeah.
like this
obviously,
scene alone.
right.
This scene alone is basically Sam, as the lawyer, is entitled to all the evidence that the prosecution has in order for him to adequately defend his client. And this sheriff is refusing to give him that evidence, which would make it a mistrial. And it's a funny little interaction here. I do appreciate the old timey phones, because those are being phased out in the late 50s in that area. So nice that they got him in.
And he's also a dumpy character that nobody took seriously before this point. So
Right.
Sam's also contending with everybody's opinion of him.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because Al said that in the waiting room, the real guy was just pleading for 6 hours to take me to his leader or something.
And he's like, well, imagine that. We meet intelligent life from outer space and they meet a lawyer.
Right. That was actually funny. So, and then there was an earlier part that he was saying something about Perry Mason. And then here, there's sort of a callback to that, because this guy is giving him crap and not wanting to give him the thing, and it's complete corruption, just like Script just said. And at the end, basically, Sam threatens the guy and says, and also whoever he's talking to, that he's going to bring a federal marshal, or I don't know what he starts threatening
He's
him.
gonna get a subpoena, yeah.
Subpoena and a federal whatever. And then the guy gets scared and he's like, "Fine, I'll give it to you." And then he says something like, "Thanks, Perry Mason," or something like that.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
your
'cause
technical
he's quoting a
terminology.
line that Perry used in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I love your your technical terminology of federal whatever.
Yeah, threaten you with
Your
the federal
grasp of
whatever.
the law is staggering.
No,
Well, Price is not a lawyer in real life, then.
no, I actually do know a lot about the law, but in this specific case, I didn't remember exactly what he was saying to him. I just remember it was like, "I want to bring a federal marshal," or something. I don't know why that stuck in my mind, but it could have said something
that
else.
happens in the third act or the last act of the show.
Oh, okay. So I may have
I'm
combined.
just teasing. I like picking on you once in a while because you make
No,
me
it's
laugh.
cool, man. I think it's fun. That's.
It's great. It's great comedy.
I agree. I think that there's no harm in doing that. So
This is where we meet the captain's wife, and my first impression of her was like she's a little cuckoo. Elevator doesn't go all the way up, but again, just really great performance, even in the short time that we see her.
She barely blinks too. That's
Yeah,
right.
I couldn't tell if she was crazy or blind.
So then she's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Oh, once she reminds him once that her and her boy and him punched each other or something. I can't remember now.
High school fight or something like that.
The high
And
school
messed
fight.
up her flowers.
She apologizes on his behalf.
Right, and she's like, "Don't you go stepping on my flowers," or something like that.
Right.
And then he's
Uncanny,
like,
exact impression.
and then, "Yes, ma'am. Don't worry about it. I won't step on them." And then he walks
Not
in.
this time.
And then Sam walks in and he talks to this other, I guess,
Myrtle.
Myrtle.
that was there, and he's trying to get information from her, but Myrtle doesn't want to stick her nose in other people's business, even though she seems to have some information. And the way she describes it, that there was a shot, and then she screamed, and the way she describes the story to Sam understands that this is it doesn't sound like something that was premeditated by something that happened, maybe some kind of accident or something he understands that there's more to this story that's not being told to him. Plus, I think Myrtle maybe talks about the fact that he used to beat her.
Right.
The son used to beat.
Amongst other words that you can't say on YouTube.
Yes, he
Right.
was a very forthright lover.
Right. He used to
He was
buy her.
insistent a lot. He was very
He
insistent.
bought her.
You can't say that word on YouTube.
I think
No.
that when she was a teenager, he bought her a lot of grapes.
Yes. That's usually what people defer to. The
So
produce department.
there was produce in the teens, and then
Already.
but then I guess it just became something of a normal thing that they're together and he likes to beat her or something like that. So this is information that he got from Myrtle, but Myrtle doesn't want to get involved. She doesn't want to testify. She doesn't want to do anything.
She doesn't want to
And,
swear on the Bible. That's another big issue.
Right. There's something about swearing on the Bible too. Although I don't remember why she didn't want to swear on the Bible.
Well, it gets revealed when Sam pushes Lila. It's Lila, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Lila to do it, and she refuses as well. That's when he starts to realize, and this is the spoiler to the episode, is that for Lila and the other Black people in this community, they take the Bible so seriously, and they do know that if they swear on it, they will have to be honest, and they cannot hide the person that they're protecting
I see.
Right.
because they are terrified.
Also,
of
there's
the
a
afterlife.
there's a moment where they reveal when he's talking to her that now Rose got me calling him Boss Hog, but
Captain. Or yeah,
the
Captain.
captain,
Yeah, the captain. Yeah.
the captain, I guess, pulled them aside. He basically did a cleanup crew type thing. He pulled them aside and he made them swear on the Bible as well that they wouldn't reveal the truth.
Mm.
Did they review that yet?
And that comes into play when he reads her the scripture.
Right,
Because
I agree
she's
with
been
you.
been told she can't reveal it.
Right, but we're not there yet. But you're right. I understand what
Right.
you're saying. But yes,
Good old Galatians 7:5.
right, exactly. But
That's later.
we'll
Yes.
get to that later. So now she won't help. He understands that he's on his own again. So now he's trying to tell her, "You did this and that." I don't know what he's.
They're trying to swear in her testimony, right? Or
Oh, that's right. He wants to.
Not the testimony, the confession.
confession.
Trying to rule it either admissible or non-admissible. But then he discovered that his zipper was open.
Yes, undiscovered. Until
Right,
didn't make it up.
right.
So
I mean, he
Al
just
can tell him absolutely nothing.
right. Al is useless in this episode, really. I enjoy seeing Al, but really, if there was ever an episode that I felt until now that he really didn't have a lot to do except for just show up and be Al and leave, it's this episode. I mean,
Mhm.
even if Al wasn't here throughout this episode, I don't know if he gives him one bit of information that's helpful for anything.
He's helping
No.
him a bit here with because he's like, you should object, and he feeds him little things, but not like a whole lot. And Sam ends up coming to conclusions on his own that
Yeah.
are a lot better.
That's true.
Or is this actually the moment where they're trying to decide about the jury? Or did that?
Oh, the
already-
jury. No, I think the jury happens after this.
Yeah, it happens a moment after this, but it's a really clever play that Sam uses and definitely gets the town riled up a little bit, but the judge kind of is fine with it. I mean, he does.
Yeah,
point
but
out the
he's
very
fine. Yeah, he's fine with it, but he knows how he's gonna pivot that
Yeah.
that decision.
Right. You can say everything that Sam wants to hear, but it doesn't make any difference because there's nobody else that can be on this jury except for the jury that's
Exactly.
already here. So he
Right.
looks like he's a reasonable judge, but he's not really giving anybody anything.
Well, he's actually exploring the full virtues of the law, which is that if in the hypothetical there were Black members of the jury, because again he's saying you have to be a registered voter in order to participate in a jury, and apparently there's no Black people in this county or this parish that are registered voters, so that means that it's there. And I mean, the question is that if there were, would he allow it? I think because he even entertained the idea, he probably would have. I'm not trying to be on his side or saying that he's not bigoted, because he clearly has some of those points of view. But I mean, normally a judge would just say outright no right at the start. So you have to kind of think, okay, if he's a good judge and he wants to conduct a fair trial, and this is brought forth to him, and he's willing to entertain it to the full extent, where a corrupt judge or a bigoted judge would be like, no, not in this sense. This is the jury, this is what it is, you're stuck with it.
And you know what's funny too? Like sometimes shows will cast an actor to help sell a certain aspect of their characteristic. Like this guy doesn't seem like a raging racist judge. We've seen him obviously before, and he almost seems like the uncle, next door neighbor type of gentleman for the most part, where if he does something kind of off the wall, it wouldn't be like in our minds, because we know the actor and he's playing this role. It would seem too out of character. I think if they cast someone like, let's swap it around a little bit. Let's just say the judge actually is the actor that is playing the captain. Right. I mean, the captain seems to be, that actor seems to be just over the top, the stereotypical Southern, racist, big, fat character that stereotypically that we see. So I think when it comes to shows like this, I think casting really does kind of help either sell or not convince you of a character's role. I saw an interesting post that I don't know, Script, if you might have seen or know of this. I don't know where I heard it. Maybe you actually told us last week. The thing about Apple products, Apple shows, like Apple has it in their contract for their original content that bad guys cannot use Apple phones in the TV shows. So if you're watching an Apple show and a bad guy is using or a character is using an Android or a non-Apple phone, that 9 times out of 10, that's the bad guy.
Yeah, you must have heard on another stream, because I didn't bring that up, but that is something
point.
Fascinating when it comes to product placement, product brand loyalty, and also interesting fact, Sony does similar things as well. So Sony products in their movies are usually held by the heroes, and then ambiguously unknown products are wielded by some of the villains or thugs of the film. But in this case here, it's the whole context that at least Deborah Pratt is trying to do in the writing of this episode is to try and allow the judge to appear to be impartial enough that you get a chance that she's probably going to get a fair trial, so long as Sam doesn't screw it up.
Right.
Just a quick comment. A few people were talking about what Al was wearing, and then White Bear was saying that it looks like a pimp suit. But I like Al's wardrobe. I think it's cool.
The red hat is suave.
Stylish, yeah, it's stylish.
Yeah.
So
I thought there was going to be a different solution when he came up with we have to consider the jury equal. I thought he was going to state, well, I guess the only way to do it right then is to take it to a higher court.
Yeah, I thought he was going to call for a mistrial or something.
Jurisdiction change, or something. But
if it moved up to the Supreme Court or something, then it would be in the North where there would be black jurors.
We don't have the budget for that.
No, and not only that, I think that in 1957, I think that in a town like this, it's more of a kangaroo court, and it's not. I don't think that easily the judge agrees, or I think this would be a much more difficult process. But also, yes, from a storytelling perspective, it feels like Sam doesn't have years here to battle with the Supreme Court and go on all these different places and locations. It kind of has to get solved quickly.
Yep. And then the other part.
Oh
yeah, go ahead.
That's what I thought he was going to, but when he got to where he was, that was something that my mindset wasn't even thinking about. But that pretty shocked the crowd pretty good when he said, "Well, we have to consider these jurors her equals."
Right. That was I think that was a good move.
Yeah, and it's quicker to do than just have him setting up a a booth somewhere to register black people to vote.
Mhm.
I mean, under the circumstances, I think this was fine.
And who says corporations stifle creativity with all that phone talk?
In any case, so there's a whole matter of this confession, and this part she's kind of annoying because he's just trying to get this confession thrown out, but she's not cooperating. And after all of his games and everything that he tries to do, at the end, this confession just gets accepted.
Well, you're skipping over an important part.
Yeah.
He finds out that she signed a confession to something, and she's illiterate. She cannot read, so she has no idea what she signed. And all he has to do is put her on the stand to say that she couldn't read what she was signing, and she refuses to do so because it goes back to that whole swearing on the Bible aspect.
Right. So yeah, this is interesting, and it highlights how so many challenges. He can't get anybody to do anything, but he somehow has to make sure that she doesn't get convicted of this thing. And sorry, go on.
I was going to say this episode has a couple of really nice twists and turns towards the end. We're 30 minutes into a 48-minute episode, and still, I think we were still trying to guess, like, why the hell does she not just want to tell the truth? Like, what is, does she, who is she protecting? And not even that. It was like, tell the truth because you didn't do it, or if you did, it was like you guys were saying, self-defense, or it was an accident. But why take the fall for something that she didn't do? Right,
and that's kind of what I like about the writing here. That everything kind of unfolds gradually, not in the most obvious way. Along with Sam, we're learning the information. And I think that it's nice that until now we don't fully know what's going on, and we're feeling Sam's frustration that he can't get stuff done.
Yeah.
And then as we're feeling it, this annoying wife of his comes out, and she starts telling him, "Oh, like they're not gonna accept me at the country club," or I don't know what she's complaining about. But
that's what she was complaining about.
Most superficial and just doesn't care about anything. And then
she calls her a bad name, and Sam is like, "Don't you ever say that in front of me, or not even in front of me."
And she's like, "You've said it."
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Not anymore.
Not
and she
anymore.
always reminds me of Mary Steenburgen. That's who I keep thinking.
Oh yeah. I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. She does remind her. So Sam kind of puts her in her place, and then Boss Hogg shows up, and he's like, "Well, ain't you a lovely lady?
You the pretty thing,
pretty young lady."
He starts licking his fingers after grabbing her chicken.
Oh yeah.
He's doing like a bit of a Colonel Sanders here, I guess. In any case, he walks away, and she's upset and whatever. And then Sam goes in here, and he's still trying to talk to her. And I think
something real quick that it just sticks out to me in the park when they're showing Sam from behind. I think it's a really, like, right there from his back. I feel like it's a really good visual cue or clue to the audience about, like, further how dumpy this character is, because his suit jacket's totally full of wrinkles, and he's just a mess. I feel like the costumers did a great job to sell this dumpy character. I just wanted to mention that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
And then here,
everybody's still sweating.
She's still not cooperating. But then at the end, what happens? Why does she suddenly start hugging and crying? What happens here?
He tells her what's on the confession, and
she jolts because on the confession, there's a mention of
swearing to Jesus,
swearing to Jesus or something, and then she's like, "What?
I would never swear to Jesus." Yeah.
With that.
So then, but then the police officer busts in.
Yeah.
I mean, why was the police?
Yeah, he's.
Oh, Leonard.
The whole episode, they're ragging on him for wanting to defend her, and they're like, "Oh, she's rubbing up against you, huh?" Or something like that. It's like, ugh.
So this kind of solidifies maybe that rumor or that appearance.
Yeah, because she is referred to as essentially a live-in prostitute to the deceased.
Right.
Right. So at this point, I guess we're back to this confession. The confession goes in, and he basically achieved nothing. And then this is where he talks to Myrtle, and this is what Nick was talking about. Nick, you want to elaborate on that passage or whatever it was?
So I found this interesting because he's dealing with a scripture, and I think the writers just searched for scriptures that talk about truth and lie, because here it is talking. Counsel is being given about accepting the truth and not listening to those that are wanting you to pursue in a lie. But what it's talking about in context is about changing doctrine. And so the word truth is basically the teachings of Jesus, or the Christian doctrine. And they had a situation where they had ones who were converted from Judaism and some converted from other religions, and they were trying to make those who were Gentiles get circumcised. And so that's what the scripture's talking about, is getting circumcised, not about not lying. But
Getting circumcised is a Christian
still has
thing?
the effect. No, it's a Jewish thing, but
I know, but
it was they were saying that they didn't need to get those who were formerly Jewish that became Christians were saying that those who were grown adult Gentile men needed to get circumcised.
Oh, so they were bringing in their aspect towards Christianity, and Christianity was rejecting it. That's the context?
Yeah, and so he's saying, hey, this is the truth. Don't bring other, don't start making sects. Don't start breaking off into different factions. Stick to what was taught. And so that's what he's referring to with truth, not about it's bad to lie and cooperate with people who lie. But it's funny because taking just that verse out of context, that is very much what it sounds like. And so she reads that, and that's what it needed to motivate her. But
So he fooled her.
I got to chuckle.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because, isn't it also against the Bible to claim you're speaking on behalf of God for your own personal gain?
Yeah, but that wouldn't be the verse I'd use.
Right.
Basically,
so the wrong one.
Sam it's either a writing issue or Sam is just sneaky here.
Can I ask?
I think it's more just the writers picking a passage that had to do with lying and then just using it in a show. I don't think that I'm probably gonna. I don't think they did that much research to really put that quote into context in the overall scheme of the story.
Well,
They didn't know Nick. They didn't know Nick would be watching this.
Exactly. It sounds good on the surface.
You also have to remember that
to the
Deborah Pratt
appendix in
grew
the
up
back.
in Louisiana in a very religious parish, and she studied the Bible growing up. So maybe whoever taught her the scripture, that was their interpretation of that line.
Maybe.
That
Nick,
passage.
what were you going to say?
Oh, I just said, that's what I thought is in my mind, the writers went to the back of the Bible and, you can compare, you can look for keywords.
Right.
And in a lot of study Bibles, it will tell you the top verses with those words. So they probably look for words like truth and lie. And that's where they got that, the scripture.
Can I ask a totally ignorant question?
Go ahead, Sean.
I did not grow up going to church very often, and so the Bible in my head has always been like a source of inspiration. So in the way I process it is just you could open to any page, and if you find any passage that gives you any source of inspiration, that's an inherent good. So regardless of context, if it is able to motivate you to do the right thing, that's just always how I've thought of it. So does that sound stupid or wrong?
Not,
so, like,
not
regardless
to
of
me.
context, this is the perfect motivation for her to do the right thing. And
I like that.
I think there's a lot of good in what you said that but at the same time, I think context does come in important because you've seen, and this is not just select to Christianity, but to a lot of religions, where people take texts in holy books out of context and use
For
it
their
to
own purposes,
justify atrocities and different things. Just like at this time in the South, there are scriptures
That when they discriminate, they try to make it seem like it's in the Bible, and it's good that they discriminated.
well, if you're just looking for a justification for an evil
sons-
act, that's go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the scripture. One of Noah's sons was darker complexion, and where people of the Christian faith believe that those who are he moved to the Africa area of the world and those races descend from him. He did something wrong and he was cursed. So they use that as a basis to feel like black people were of less importance. And so, but that's taking something completely out of context.
Sure.
Right. So,
I think you inherently know the good or bad of what that your opinion is. So, like if you're just looking for justification for being an a-hole, it's like that seems wrong to me. But if you just need one line to spur you to do the right thing that you know is the right thing, that's just how I was.
Well, and many of the Christian faith would say that would be, God's Holy Spirit directing you when you open to that verse because it's what you needed. So you're not wrong in that context. It just I just found it funny as someone who knew the context of the scripture. I'm like, it's like that kind of made me chuckle.
yeah, but at the end, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not arguing at all. But at the end, for the sake and purpose of this episode, he basically gets his message across that if somebody tells somebody to lie in the name of Jesus or whatever it is, then that person isn't really. Yeah, but basically, he's basically convincing her to not pay attention to that guy and what he said, and to give him the information that he needs. And I think that this whole ploy, or whatever you want to call it, works fine.
There's probably better examples, but it worked.
He just needed one that works, and it's good enough. He got the result that he needed. Although, Nick, I understand what you're saying at the same time. Anyhow, the next morning, they're in court, and of course, Sam is late, but that's because he was up to some business. And then as they're there, they're bringing the mother of the deceased guy, the wife of the Boss Hog guy, and he's trying to stop her from testifying, but she's like, nope, I'm going to testify. And she's kind of very stubborn.
Sam got a subpoena. She has to testify.
Right.
That's why he's late.
Right. He got a subpoena, and they can't get rid of him. So even with their little kangaroo court, it's just not possible. And the judge understands that, and that's how he gets her to sit there. And this is the part that I actually found very interesting here, is that throughout her testimony, what it turns out is that basically the mother, she was trying to give money to Lila, is her name, to run away,
to leave
the family. She was trying to help her, but then the son came home and figured out what was happening. He started beating her, and then in the midst of all of this, the mother actually grabs the shotgun, and then this guy dies. Basically, the mother killed him. Not clear if accidentally or not 100% sure. But at the end of the day, she killed him, and it wasn't Lila that did it. But the part that's interesting here, and I think this is part of what I like about Deborah Pratt's nuanced writing, is that Lila actually shows some kind of loyalty towards this woman who was trying to help her. And at the end of the day, he was beating her, maybe in a second, almost about to beat her to death. And she kind of stepped in and did something. And she was still trying to show her some kind of gratitude and loyalty, in spite of the fact that she could end up going to jail. And until the last minute, she's telling Sam to stop, that she would have preferred to have gone to jail and not put the lady in this situation. And it's surprising to see this kind of nuanced compassion, or whatever you want to call it.
When she takes the stand, she's talking about how much she loves Lila and how
Right.
sweet she is.
Yeah, and then also she explains that the son actually did want to be with her, but of course, because of the skin color thing, and the year that they're in, it wasn't such a good fit. And he was also he liked to eat grapes and smack women around a bit, so it wasn't a
that
good.
particular one, right? That's the thing. There's no other relationship established with the deceased before. It's always been those two. Like, that's the other part that this episode is very keen to point out. It's like he was never with anyone else, as far as you can
Right.
tell. No, like remember, Sam's the woman that plays Sam's wife in this thing married Sam's character, not the the deceased, because clearly he was infatuated with Lila. But the very chilling speech and testimony that the mother gives, where she basically admits that in order to save Lila's life, she had to kill her son, and that is probably the moment that broke her psychotically,
Right.
and made her think that her son's still out hunting. Is something interesting. But this also leads into Rose's plot hole point, which is that such a testimony, with her saying that she still believes that her son is still alive, would
mean she's
make-
crazy, so she
it makes
it
it
wouldn't be
crazy, and her
acceptable.
testimony wouldn't be admissible as evidence because it could not be trusted. It'd be too much of a doubt.
Yes, plot hole.
Right. I actually
That-
thought about this too.
Prosecutor's not that competent, as we've seen in this episode.
I was
Right,
going to
I
ask
mean-
if they were even allowed to spring a new witness right in the middle of a trial, or if they have
Defense
to give
can.
notice. Oh yeah.
Because the
I
defense
mean-
doesn't have to prep the prosecution on anything they're doing.
When I was watching this, I thought of what you just said, Script, but then I also thought to myself, this is such a kangaroo court situation. It's enough that this jury already saw this lady talking. It's a small town. They all know her. Even if at the end she broke down and she's now a mess, it's not as easy to convict Lila after hearing her testimony, no matter what the judge would say now. Even if you would have said, oh, forget what you just heard, I think that it's hard to ignore what they just saw. And
Yeah.
I guess even the judge, and just looking at that boss hog's face and whatever, it's clear that there was more than meets the eye here.
Yeah, well, even Lila, she like standing up, like trying, like yelling, like get her to stop, like
Right.
stop.
I mean, that's another
So-
thing, is that she's like, stop, tell her to get off the thing, tell her to stop. So
So
I
they
think
would
that all
be swayed just by the situation, be like, oh, ugh. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
And
no. So
And,
then
sh- and as Script said earlier, she still hasn't blinked.
Yeah.
no, she never blinks.
1,000-yard stare.
And at the end, she doesn't blink, and it's in slow motion for some reason.
Ugh.
There's like a slow motion shot of her not blinking. This is a rare
she's right
ending.
out of a horror movie.
She would have been perfect for a horror movie. So this is this last scene here is a bit different than a lot of things we see, because I don't remember seeing Al pop in and saying like, "Oh, Sam, at the end she's going to go start her own clinic where she does this and that." He doesn't do anything. I think that we don't even see Al. I think Al's gone.
Mhm.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember Sam jumping without Al being somewhere close.
Right, like
No, he
say
doesn't.
goodbye, Sam. Like there's nothing. He's not saying anything. He's just. And then they have this one-on-one. We don't know what happens to this character. All we know is that Sam tells her that she has to learn how to read, and if she can learn how to read, she can learn how to do anything, or something
Sam
like
is
that.
so freaking wholesome. I was choking up.
Right?
Yeah.
He's such a wholesome guy. And then he gives her the reader, and she goes, and then she says, "Yes, whatever, I'll do it." And
Yeah.
she promises him, and that's it. Al's not. I feel like when they wrote this episode, they wanted this to be a very heartfelt ending, and that's probably why they removed Al from it. I think that they wanted to not make it jokey and just sort of, I don't know. I assume that there's a creative reason for it.
It
They
was
wanted
a heavy episode, man.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But we do find out that Sam's he gets offered to another law firm that comes with the country club access, so his wife's going to be
Right.
happy.
Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
that loose end is tied up. They do actually say that he's going to go and he's going to get the offer in the country club, and then he pops into this.
jumps.
He's an actor now, and now it seems like
Yeah, it's the Lost in La Mancha, Don Quixote.
right.
So
And
this is
then
one
he
of
looks familiar.
Scott Bakula's favorites. So
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I can understand why it would be one of his favorites, and yeah. So this is the end, and that's the end of the episode.
You missed the most important part.
Which part?
Oh boy.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. I think he
Yep.
says it this time, right?
Mhm.
yes, he does.
He does, but I don't know if I still don't know if the next few episodes if it's consistent. I think that over the next maybe 5 to 7 episodes, sometimes you have this opening, not opening, oh boy, not oh boy. I think that there's still that moment that they need to hit where it's that that intro that we know and then the oh boy, but we're still not there yet, but we're getting closer.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I guess let's just quickly go over what people thought of this episode. Nick, what did you think of this episode?
I thought it was a good episode. I liked a lot about it. I liked, the nice plot twist at the end. I do feel like a lot of times you see the plot twist coming a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
I had thought that maybe it was the other maid lady, or
Myrtle.
that it was. Yeah, I even thought maybe it was the captain, but I didn't think of it as being the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that when a twist takes me. I do feel though that this was, we were talking about it at the end, but through the whole thing, I felt like this episode was lacking in great Al content.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
He wasn't as witty as normal. He wasn't as helpful as normal, and he wasn't even in it as normal. And so, for that, I wouldn't say that this is like an outstanding up at the top, like some of the other episodes that we've done that have dealt with the race issue. But I do think it was a good court drama, and I enjoyed it.
Awesome, and I agree. I think that Al was underutilized in this one, but still, I mean, I still think that there's a lot that this episode got right. But let's go to Script Doctor. What do you think?
I think this was a pretty fascinating one. I liked the mystery element to it. It really drove the story along. The characters were fun. I liked I thought the consistency of the heat wave was great. And I also appreciated how once we get to the end scene where Lila's waiting for the bus, the heat wave's gone. It broke. Everybody's kind of not sweating anymore. I thought that was a nice directing choice. And yeah, even though I wish there would be more Al to it, I think in this case here, it would be Al would have been a lesser writer would have used Al as a crush that would eventually find records saying, yep, turns out that the wife, she's a nut job. She's been a nut job. She gets admitted to the mental hospital in like 1968. We find out that the reason she's there is because she's the one that really killed the kid. So, I mean, that would have just been too easy. So I think it was appropriate that they did not let Al be the Deus Ex Machina in this case for the episode. And I think it worked for what was needed. And we're going to get more Sam leaping into lawyers in the future. So,
Right, and Al's still gonna find stuff to do in future episodes. Sometimes maybe you can have an episode that somebody is utilized a little less. In most of them, I think he's utilized pretty well. But there's what it is. Ro, what did you think?
I thought it was a pretty solid episode. We've had a couple of really heavy episodes the last few weeks, and when they jumped into this episode last week, I'm like, oh my God, another, Southern episode that probably is going to deal with race relations and et cetera, et cetera. Somebody in the chat reminded me that I mentioned To Kill a Mockingbird. It's one of the things I had in my notes. I had Kill a Mockingbird, the captain is dressed like Belloc, rampant racism, and I love this week's cameo by the Miranda Law. So it was it was a really solid episode. Like I said, again, I'll mention the acting was really great. It kept me on my toes, and like everyone is saying, I loved the twists and turns that this episode kind of gave us. Always kept us guessing up until the end when when we see the plot hole. But it was really great.
It's a minor plot hole, but yes, I agree. Sean, how did you feel about the episode?
Last week I said it was going to be a blast of an episode, and with the shotgun, I was right. Haha. I really like how it was shot. I felt like it looked more like a movie this week than other episodes have. I loved the courthouse location with all the vines outside. Where's my thing? Oh, Al had a really good quote, because I mentioned they kept mentioning he's like, I looked into her eyes, and Al said to Sam, "You saw the truth there. That's probably why you got this job." I thought that was a great line, and it felt a lot like the other murder mystery episodes that we've had, where they'll introduce a character once and then later they end up being the bad guy, and I was totally fine with that. I would have liked a few more laughs, but I don't think they would have been appropriate. And I liked what Script said about it being fine that Al wasn't there to have all the answers for once. And overall, it's good. Not one of my favorites, but I liked all those other points.
I mean, even an episode that you could say favorite or not favorite, I think that this is still a very solid episode. I mean,
Of course.
it does what it's supposed to do. I like the fact that it's showing what's happening in 1957, but I never feel like I'm personally being lectured to. I feel like it's just trying to show you some historical context, the story of trying to understand the shoes Sam's in and the situation he's in, but it never takes that step further as to personally attack you in any way. And I like that, because I feel like today in our more modern times, too many of these modern writers are tempted to do this kind of personal attacking, and it really lacks the nuance and the depth of the type of writing we see here. This was a delicate topic. It could have been handled in different ways, and I thought that it was handled in a very graceful way. So I actually liked it. I agree with Ro that the cast here, the cast members are usually good, but in this case, I really feel that the cast was exceptionally good. Every actor or actress that were chosen here really did what they were supposed to do. And what's important is that in a movie you have, let's say, 2 hours, or if you have a series with multiple episodes, you can build characters and things like that. But here, this is just one episode, and the fact that we sort of form connections with these characters, or we feel something towards the defendant lady, I think that it's pretty well done, and I personally think it's a good episode. Yes, when I think of my favorite episodes, it's probably not up there. It's like, oh, I have to watch this one again. But it is a quality episode, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to your point, Price, I think if they made the same episode again today, they'd have a problem, because a good portion of the jury would already have been black.
Well, half the background characters would be half this, half that, half this.
Yeah, because
I mean,
that's, they're trying to, with a lot of stuff, erase how stuff was back then, and have their cake and eat it too. And so,
right, and I'll give you an example. And I'm sorry if this is the drinking game again, but there was an episode of the new Quantum Leap where the guy, the leaper,
we completed the list.
The leaper ends up in like 1915 or 1920 for some reason, and he arrives in some place, and there's a doctor who's black, and there's like a white family. Now, there could be different circumstances to try to explain how that is, but honestly, it does not ring true that in 1915 there would be a black doctor working with a white family, no matter what the circumstances were. That doesn't ring true to me. And I think that's why that news show couldn't even begin to tackle the type of issues that this older one does, and certainly not in the thoughtful way that it does it. And it's not even a new Quantum Leap and old Quantum Leap. It's just sort of the new school of Hollywood activist writers with ADHD versus people who actually care about what they're writing and how they're presenting things. And all I can do is regret that we don't get this level of writing on a lot of shows these days, in my opinion. But
And this was probably like a base standard for writing back in the day. Just
not for every show.
Tell a competent story.
Yeah.
It's always story first. I mean, that's just the
Right.
case. I mean, listen, to your point, Price, if you wanted that situation, you'd actually only find that in 1915 in the border cities of Canada at that time. Because again, the Underground Railroad had a lot of slaves leave the United States and stay in the North and cross into Canada where they were educated, because by that point, Canada did not have any slavery. The British Empire and all of its colonies abolished it many, many years prior. So that's where you could probably get a situation like that. But again, that's in Canada in 1915. It's not the same as, say, Louisiana or North Carolina in 1915. Which
I don't remember where that episode was with the 1915 that this happens in the new show, but whatever it was, it didn't ring true, and I don't believe it was Canada. So
no, it definitely would not be Canada.
it didn't ring true to me, and it's not the only case that happens on this show. I feel like on many other occasions there were things that continuously don't ring true to me. But which is bad on a time travel show, because on a time travel, and this is what Nick was saying, that they're trying to erase or change history. On a time travel show, you expect the guy to go back in time, and if he's in the 50s in the South, it has to seem like he's in the 50s in the South. It doesn't mean that what we're looking at is good or that we agree with it, but if you want to create an authentic type of feeling of time travel, it has to at least try to resemble what that era was like. Otherwise, it's not even a time travel show. He's just traveling to 2024 all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
or he traveled back in time and that screwed something up in the universe that sent ripples and changed things throughout time. So when he shows up in the 20s and there's a variety of things changed, he could be like, "Oh crap, we messed up." I'm sorry, I'm just spitballing here.
No, I understand. Anyhow, I think that we've covered this episode. I think it's at the end of the day, I think we all agree that it's a good episode. Maybe it doesn't go down as one of those that if you want to rewatch or kind of, it's not maybe super fun and maybe not a rewatchable in the sense that you want to rewatch it every second, but it's a quality episode that tells a good story, has a mystery, has a good cast, well produced, well made, and next week we have a different kind of episode. So it'll be interesting to shift towards what we're looking at next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess let's see if anybody here in the audience had some interesting things. Tex Rogers says the new Quantum Reaper really suffers from too much work on the arc story, too little work on the episode stories. You know, that arc story, not that I want to get into it, but that in and of itself is a joke. So, yeah. And let's see if there was anything else. My top 5 episodes. I don't think that this is... I don't know if he was referring to this episode. I One Calendar, yes, my top 5 best episode. I have to watch it over and over again on the Sideway channel. This is the best episode. I don't think this is... I think he's talking about Babylon 5 with Tex Rogers or something.
Usually, the chat usually's got their own show going.
Right, exactly.
They keep devolving into Babylon 5. Maybe we'll have to do that next.
Right. That'll be the next one. That'll be the next, after Quantum Leap, we can do Babylon 5.
Is that the show with the guy with the crazy hair?
Yes. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Where the hair looks like the end of a broom. Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny because I was listening to an interview with the guy who plays Chekhov, and he's in that show, so he was talking.
Oh, yeah. Walter Koenig.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just quickly, to all the regulars, if I forgot anybody, but it's nice to see everybody here. Tex, Ron, Lisa, Kaiwan.
You guys rock.
It's really great seeing you here every week. White Bear, Malachi. If I forgot something.
Comics and Cosmetics
Matthew McGee.
Cosmic as Cosmetics. Dread Roberts that came kind of for a brief visit. And if I forgot anybody, I apologize. Joshua Calkins, there was, I think, Matthew McGee. Really great to see you all here. I also know that a lot of people watch this after the fact, and I'm also grateful for that. And we had a good, a nice crowd on Rumble as well. Hippie Fukin 69. That is a strange name, but thank you for all your comments that I'm sort of now seeing. And thanks for everybody that's watching. And before we go, let's just go one by one and see, if anybody has anything special to plug. Nick, the Back Yard Tardis, is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I just my adventures in locksmithing. After 2 weeks of doing into the Panaverse and being real long-winded on that, I have a real short one tomorrow dropping about MacGyver opening a lock with a pocket knife. But other than that, I got to drop out early because my kid's getting into something. I got to go take care of that. But great stream, everyone.
All right, bye, dude.
Thank you, Nick.
Script, is there anything you want to plug?
Nope, just scripts on Saturdays. This Saturday at 7 p.m. Go check us out.
All right, that's I second that motion. And then Ro, anything you want to plug?
I took a little hiatus, but I'm back. I dropped a brand new episode of the audio podcast version of the show. Just look for the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast wherever you download your other favorite shows. I was actually talking about some really great Star Wars coffee table books. There's a whole bunch of them, and a whole bunch that I didn't think I had when I was looking through my collection, and some really fun discussions there. So check it out.
All right, cool. Sean, anything?
If you want stickers, go to realseancrummel.art.etsy.com. See, you're not the only one that screws it up. And there's a new drawing video coming real soon. If I can just get my butt off to add commentary to drawing some Fables characters, if you're into that.
Sounds awesome. I love your collection, and I recommend everybody check it out. I see White Bear 2 said music. I don't know if he meant that I should do the outro.
He's like, play the saxophone, man.
He's like,
all right,
play the damn
all right.
Outro already.
So I'm gonna play. We're gonna stop babbling. I'll play the outro, and here we go.
You guys-